I know for a fact that there are things that get better immediately. And, my dental health did start getting better immediately. And in fact, the dentist, when I went back for my checkup, like it wasn't even, I think it was like 6 months after I, just basically had no choice but to eat carnivore. She said, "What did you do? I've never seen anything like this."
Sarah, how did you find carnivore?
Well, it was a long journey, pretty a lifelong thing. I was a sickly kid. I was pretty much born overweight and sick, and I was always looking for a way to feel better. There's some stuff that happened to me that I didn't know that you know um, didn't happen because that didn't happen to other kids. I just thought everybody was like that, like being in pain all the time, like having massive joint pain my whole entire life. I just thought everybody felt like that because it was part of being alive. Um, but I just knew that being overweight was not, right, because back in the 1980s, I was the fat kid. There were no fat kids at school except for me. So I knew that there was something wrong, and it had to do with, my diet or whatever, because everybody told me, "Hey, you're eating stuff that's fattening." And so I just kind of went on this quest, my entire life to try to find, how to fix it. And after a while, I got to where, I could read at a pretty advanced level. And my grandmother, well, my great grandmother, she had all these like medical books and just herbal tomes, like, so I would just go over to her house in the summer and I would just read all these books, just read and read and read and research. And I stumbled upon, basically all these health modalities from way back then, and I would just try them. And stuff just didn't work, and then some stuff would stick for a little while, and and eventually I ended up being a vegetarian at the age of 15, and stayed that way till I was probably about 40, almost 40 years old. Yeah, so very long time. Yeah, and so I just, for a while it worked. For a while I got better, and partly it was because back then there was no vegetarian junk food, and if there was, it was real expensive and it tasted terrible. It was like the worst thing ever. Like the fake hamburgers they had back then, they came in a can and they were just horrible. And they were like, like $5 or $10 for like this can of fake meat. And they called it Loma Linda burger. It was awful. I don't know if you guys had that where you guys lived, but yeah,
Yeah,
it was,
the kind of Seventh-day Adventist Church were the first fake
yeah.
meat producers, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it tasted like, to me, I thought it tasted like vomit. That's what it tasted like to me. So I would make my own food, So I think that's what saved me, was because I couldn't eat any junk food. There was no, vegan cheese. There was no, all this stuff that they have now. So I think that that kind of like helped me out. And I always ate eggs and a little bit of dairy when I could afford dairy, because dairy was, especially after I got out on my own and I was in my 20s, I couldn't afford to buy cheese and that kind of stuff. So I was basically eating eggs and vegetables for years. And finally, one day, something just clicked in my head, and I decided I was just going to eat fish. And that's what I started. And then I started from there eating more meat. And um, I don't know. It just progressed from there to the point where like the more meat I added to my diet, the better it was. And I was still like, like in my 20s, I started gaining all the weight back because as a teenager, I was, kind of thin, because the vegetarian thing, it was kind of like the honeymoon period, I think. And it just, and like, yeah. And so by the time I was like almost 30 years old, I was, getting to be very obese again. And at my heaviest, eating the, like the quote unquote healthy food, I was like 100, no, 200 and, I think it was like 249 pounds. So I was about 250 pounds. Yeah, that's pretty big. Eating supposedly healthy food. And within the first year of just adding, animal products back in, I lost like 75 pounds within the first year. And that's not changing anything else. That's just adding, like, meat and poultry back in. So yeah, it's just crazy. And so I just kept going, okay, what if I keep taking more and more of the plants out of my diet to see what happened? And it got to the point where, I started to get real sensitive, and I could see, okay, if I eat like beans and rice or something like that with my dinner, I started getting, like real sensitive, upset stomach or whatever, or I could just feel, just not right. And so I just started like eliminating stuff. And I had been gluten free, like even as a vegetarian. So it wasn't like the whole gluten thing. So I didn't even have to get rid of that. So it was just every plant that started just bugging me, I would just like get rid of it. And I was down to like blueberries and iceberg lettuce at one point. And I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like, all right, so let's just see if I can live off of meat. And this was like, I don't know, like almost 9 years ago. I was just like, holy moly, okay, I want to see if I can, stop eating this stuff and stay alive. And so that's basically what happened. And in the meantime, when I was researching and doing all this stuff, I had gotten pretty ill from probably just still hanging on, trying to think, okay, I gotta have at least some fiber, some vegetables or whatever. And it was like my dental health was getting really bad too, because all I was eating was like, blueberries, lettuce, and, just a little bit of like meat here and there. Because, like when you're sick like that, you just don't feel good. You don't want to eat anything. And so my dental health got really bad too. And I got to the point where I couldn't even like chew anything. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I got to do something. So I went to this dentist, and the dentist said, well, your teeth are so like infected. I just want to take out all your teeth. And I told him, no, like, you're not taking my teeth. I'm like 40 years old. You're not taking all my teeth. And so I went to another dentist, and they're like, oh, well, we might be able to work with this or whatever. And the lady was really nice, and she was from like Germany or something. And she was a really nice lady. But she's like, we got to do all these treatments. And I'm like, all right, well, let me think about it. Well, in the meantime, I had gotten like so sick that I couldn't even eat anymore. Like I couldn't eat. And I'm like, I got to do something. So I started drinking raw milk, because I had heard that raw milk could help, for whatever reason. I had just remembered, like from books that I'd read a long time ago, and from the Weston A. Price books and all that. I just was like, okay, I got to do something. So I started drinking raw milk, and I drank raw milk for like 6 months. And that's all I did. I couldn't, eat or do anything else, because my teeth were just in such bad shape, just from all of the years of damage. And I think, it was just this whole metabolic damage that I'd done to myself. And so, and then, and my friends were getting like really worried, because I was getting really skinny and all this stuff. And then I was like, okay, I got to eat something besides milk. And my teeth were getting more stable and better. So I started eating raw hamburger, because anytime I cooked anything, it would be so difficult to chew, even like tender meat, that I couldn't do it. So I said, okay, I got to eat something. So I started eating, I literally like raw hamburger. And luckily it was from this local butcher that like basically it's farmer run and owned. So it's like this local farm deal where we could get, local meat. And so that's what I did. I went there because I knew, it's like, I'm not going to eat raw Walmart hamburger. There's just no way. So I went there and I got this meat, and that's basically what I lived off of for like a year, was this raw milk and raw hamburger. And then I started graduating to like, different cuts of meat when my teeth, because it took a long time for my teeth to get better for some reason. It was just like, yeah, they just were not, that was like the worst part of it. I think it was like my body was just like at its wit's end, and it didn't know what to do. So I
And sorry,
feel,
sorry to cut in. Just out of
yeah.
interest, when you first started eating that raw hamburger, I mean, did your body kind of react in any way?
No, actually, well, actually kind of did. It was like, oh, thank you, is what it felt like. It felt like I was nourishing myself finally, after like months and months, even though the milk was really good, and it felt good to drink this milk, but I was drinking like 3 gallons a week or something crazy like that, just to stay alive. And I'm like, I can't do this. I can't drink because raw milk in the United States is almost illegal. And in the states that it is legal in, like here in California, it's really expensive because it comes with a lot of like regulation and testing and basically what I call fines. And so the farmer, in order to stay in business, has to charge at least $20 a gallon for this milk. So, and back then it was cheaper. But it was $16 a gallon, and that's a lot. So I just was like, I got to eat something else. This is getting expensive, and also you can't just live off of milk. That's just crazy. So yeah, so I started graduating to meat, and when the first time I ate this piece of raw hamburger, I was just like, wow, I feel like I just ate something, and I'm thinking, okay, either I'm going to be nourished or I'm going to die of like E. coli or something, but I didn't. I was fine. So I just kept doing it, and like I said, I graduated to like more and more like regular cuts of meat, like steaks and things like that, and I would just eat it raw. I'd chop it up into little pieces and just eat it. And contrary to popular belief, raw meat is not tough. It's actually very tender. So my teeth can handle it. And then when my teeth healed, I started kind of cooking my meat a little bit. So I have stuff still pretty rare, but yeah, for the most part, for years and years, I was eating, raw meat. And up until probably like, I don't know, like a couple years ago, it it was 90% raw meat, raw
Wow.
carnivores. Yeah, and so now I like I'll cook more of my food, but if I start feeling, kind of weird or whatever, because I still have histamine issues and things like that, I think that's why the raw is better for me. Because when you cook something, it creates more histamines, especially with meat. So at least that's been my experience. So a lot of times I'll have to go back to just eating raw for a day or two or whatever, and then I'm kind of okay, with that. And it just takes a while for histamine to kind of like wear off too. So, but yeah, I'm like way better than I was, I'll tell you. I mean, and I don't have the joint pain that I had. My hair grows like a weed. I mean, it's just, and I don't have any gray hair. Like all of my family members, they got gray pretty early, so I expected, to be gray and like way before now. So yeah, it's been a journey, and like with anything else, there's some people that can like transform like instantly. They do carnivore for a couple months and they're just like they turn into like super athletes and all this stuff. But not everybody is like that. Sometimes it takes a while for stuff to get better. But I I I know for a fact that there are things that get better immediately, and my dental health did start getting better immediately. And in fact, the dentist, when I went back for my checkup, like it wasn't even, I think it was like 6 months after I, just basically had no choice but to eat carnivore. She said, "What did you do? I've never seen anything like this. At least not." She said, "I've heard stories in my own country." She said, "But I've never actually seen this except for maybe in children." So, my teeth are not beautiful. Don't get me wrong, they actually look pretty bad, but as far as a stability standpoint, they're not loose anymore. The cavities have stopped. In fact, they have, according to the dentist, she said that they are not active anymore. I basically have scars because you that kind of tooth decay just basically will make a scar, and so that's what's left. And I can get it filled or whatever, but at this point it's like cosmetic. And I've had some work done, but I just don't want to mess with that too much. I want to let my mouth just do what it's going to do and see what happens, because I think that that's better. It's more natural than having all this dental work. But yeah, it's just, you just never know what's gonna go first, what's gonna improve first. And the weight, it comes and goes. Like it just depends. Like, because sometimes if I eat too much dairy now, I'll get fat or whatever. And I have done experiments lately, within the last few months, to see like, Ron and I decided to like add in some plant foods to see what would happen, because you do this for so long, you go, okay, I need some variety. Let's see what happens. And a lot of people are talking about, like, I don't know, like the gut microbiome and all this stuff. So I was like, all right, well, maybe I'm healed up enough to do that. No, the symptoms came back. They came back. And so what I'm telling people is, okay, so you can gain weight on lettuce. You really can. I'm living proof of that. It didn't take very long for me to start gaining weight and have my joints start hurting again. And we didn't even introduce anything that had any carbohydrates to it. All this stuff was basically keto. And it was very small amounts at a time. I mean, my biggest salad that I ate this whole 3-month period was like this big, and it was still enough to do some symptoms. And I'm recuperating from that. Yeah. So just a warning to anybody, like, if you are like, I don't know, like immunocompromised, I guess is what I would want to say, or people that have like, you know, kind of big issues, the reason why they came to carnivore, you might want to stay that way, experiment with it and see, but I'm warning you, it's yeah, the symptoms come right back even after, the better part of a decade. I figured I'd been carnivore for this long, and they say, oh, you're going to heal up, and no, there's something to it. There's something to it. There's something going on. I don't know if it's the American food supply. I don't know if it's just all the like the plant toxins that plants have, because every plant has salicylates, and that's a huge toxin, and it's in all kinds of products that we use and stuff like that, and painkillers and everything else. And so it might have just been an overdose of salicylates. You never know. um I don't know. I just know that if it wasn't something that was that big a deal, then you would think after 9 years it would have cleared up. You know what I'm saying? So there's something to that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm like 9 years is a good stretch of time. So
Yeah.
after 9 years, no scurvy.
No. Quite the opposite, actually. Yeah, my teeth are actually staying in my head, not falling out.
That,
So,
that's what I always say when critics of carnivore will be scurvy, 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 and it's like, well, my teeth improved, my gums improved. Like
yeah,
you're telling me it should be the opposite way around. It's yeah,
yeah, and my
that's not
skin
my
improves
experience.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, your skin improves too, and that's part of scurvy, is that you get these like horrible lesions on your skin and stuff like that. Your connective tissue falls apart. Well, mine got better, so
Hmm.
yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. So after 9 years doing this, have you had people questioning you and saying like, Sarah, what's going on? Why are you, you know, you're eating raw hamburger and marginally cooked steaks and whatever? What's going on?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I have a lot of people like they freak out. Yeah, my mom, she's just, oh, she's like, what are you doing? And now she kind of understands it. And so now she like goes out of her way if I have to go to a restaurant with them or something like that. She just like tells the cook, hey, my daughter can't have any spices. She can't have this, and don't cook it too much. And so she's on my side now, but before it was like she was really worried. And my friends, like, some of them, I have to say, I did lose some friends because they're just like, yeah, we can't invite you over for dinner or anything anymore. We don't know what to do with you anymore. So it's kind of like, yeah, we're still kind of friends, but yeah, we don't hang out. We don't do anything together. So because they don't know what to do. And this one person that really, I mean, he would come to my place like almost every day and try to like, you know, stop being on the dark side, Sarah. Come back, eat vegetables. No.
Was he like a vegetarian or vegan or something, or he just
No,
he thought you
he
were hurting yourself?
yeah, he was like this old school guy that used to be like he was like a paramedic kind of guy. So he had a lot of medical training, and so he was really indoctrinated into that stuff. And he ate meat. It wasn't like he was a vegetarian, but yeah, he was just thinking that I was gonna hurt myself, that I was killing myself, and all this stuff, you know. And every new doctor that I see too, they're like, "Oh, well, if your cholesterol is over, 200, we're gonna have a talk." And I'm like, "Talk all you want. I'm not gonna do anything different." So, it cracks me up, but I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah. I
So,
mean,
yeah.
that the conversation with the doctors always kind of is always amusing to me because it's always like, what panic stations, your cholesterol's above this number. We really need to be, this is a serious situation. And I'm kind of sitting there thinking, but I don't feel that way because this is the best I've ever felt. I
Yeah.
don't have any joint pain anymore. I've got nothing.
Mhm.
And everyone else is running around me panicking. Like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Yeah, it's like, "Oh, yeah, let's put this person on life support. They're gonna die." And I'm old enough to remember when the cholesterol threshold was a little bit higher, in America. It was over 200, and now they're trying to get everybody under 200. And I'm looking at them going, "Yeah, right. You're not gonna con me." I'm like, "I understand what's going on here. No, I'm not taking your statins or whatever and, getting you guys your kickbacks because it's my body, I'm and even if it wasn't something bad, it's my choice." So, and that's what people don't get, it's like it's your choice. If you want to do this to your body and make yourself better, you should do it.
And the scary thing is when you talk about like how they've reduced the thresholds,
Hmm.
it used to be over 200, as you say.
Yeah.
Like there's doctors out there now that are saying you need to get it below 40. And it's like,
No.
what?
It's like, okay, we need cholesterol. We need it for vital functions. It's not something that has to do with heart disease. It really isn't.
Yeah.
The
We
symptom.
wonder why things like dementia are on the rise and all these
Yeah,
problems are on the rise.
yeah, yeah, because your
Mm.
brain has nothing left after you have no cholesterol. And my grandfather, we finally, like, before he passed away, like probably about 10 years before he passed away, convinced him to get off of his statins because it was making him forget everything. He couldn't function, and I'm going, "Yeah, grandpa, you can't do this. You can't be on something that's going to make you forget." And then when I explained it to him what a statin drug does, he was like, "Whoa, okay." And it made him think, and it was because I'm like, "Yeah, it's shutting down your liver. That's what it's doing. It's making it so your liver can't make cholesterol so that your blood work looks better. It's basically something to cover it up. It's not it's not something that's beneficial to anybody. It's just something to make money for drug companies and to make the doctors look like they're doing their job. That's all it is, as far as I'm concerned. At the cost of the patient, at the cost
Yeah.
of your life, of your memory, of your last days of of being here on Earth. That's how I feel about it. Say they put me down as a combatant patient because I will not take the statins, even if. Yeah, I told the doctor, I said, "I don't care if my cholesterol goes up to 500. I'm not taking it. I'm sorry, I'm just not."
Hmm.
So
So
that's me.
when they put you down as a combative patient, that makes it sound like you were in there with nunchucks or something. It's
Yeah, well, that's what they call it here. It's something like that, or like a patient, something about like you're not going to comply, you're
okay.
non-compliant and you're combatant and all this stuff. Yeah, they put it in your record.
Which is a little bit of a scary way of classifying people as non-compliant because like often you see like when police are arresting people, they'll have them on the ground and they'll be saying, just comply.
Yeah,
It's a little bit scary. That's like the brute force way of getting you to take your medications.
right,
Well, he's
right.
compliant. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want you to do what they want you to do, and that's it. And they don't think about, that you're a human being and you have a choice. It's like, no,
Mm.
you're just their little, I don't know what to call it. They're basically their job for that 15 minutes. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
you're not making my paperwork jive. I don't like you.
Yeah, yeah. My paperwork's all out of order now, thanks to
Yeah,
you.
yeah, thank
Um,
you. I didn't get to sell 10 bottles of pills today because of you.
so something you said before, I think is really interesting. It's like you take the medication just to get your numbers down so they look good on a test.
Yeah,
And it's like it doesn't mean anything for your health. I mean, potentially it's negative for your health,
right.
but it's just so that everyone can go, oh, look, Sarah got an A plus on her test. Awesome. Good job, Sarah. And it's like,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what's going on inside. It's just
right.
A plus. Good job. Here's a smelly sticker.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
every time you have to go in there, it feels like you're in some oppressive system. Like they're just like, all right, we're trying to control you and put you in our little box. And no.
Mm. Mm. So, after 9 years, like how are you eating day to day now? Like, are you eating two or three times a day?
Well, I've been experimenting because most of my life, even because I knew about intermittent fasting a really long time ago. And part of it was because of my mother. She's always like stressed that, you don't want to eat too late in the day. You got to keep your eating window short. And I think it had to do with like some of our family genetics because, if all of us, like if we eat too late, we kind of get a little sick to our stomachs. My mom and my brother, especially, they refuse to eat after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They just won't do it. They say that they just can't do it. And so I've always just been, one meal a day in the morning most of the time. And then last couple years I've been experimenting with having like 2 meals a day, but I rarely ever eat more than twice a day. And I actually kind of like eating once a day more. But you know, socially sometimes you have to have dinner with people, but that's okay. You could do that. And I'm probably going to get back more into just eating one meal a day because, yeah, I've noticed I feel my best when I do
That's
that.
pretty early in the day that you're eating that. Like, are you having a traditional kind of breakfast time, or do you wait till midday or something?
It depends on, what kind of job that I have at the time. Right now, I'm not working, so my natural way of eating is just like wait till the middle of the day. But if I have a job or something like that, then I get up pretty early and then I'll eat before I go to work. But yeah, most of the time it's just, yeah, I try to just do it like kind of a lunch, kind of like in between breakfast and lunch, kind of, you know, after exercise or whatever I have to do. So.
Nice. So, if someone's thinking about doing this, as kind of an expert, nearly a decade's experience, um, how would you recommend they go about getting started?
Well, first of all, I would try to understand what your why is for doing it, because there's certain um, modalities that cause people to want to even look at carnivore, because most people, most human beings, especially in Western society, they want variety. They want, food is entertainment to these people. They're not um, going for health most of the time. So just check out what your root cause of of this is. I really didn't have a choice. I basically, as far as I'm concerned, I had to do it. It saved my life. Um, but yeah, just figure out what your why is, and you know, depending on what kind of person you are, what your personality is, slowly go into it and see what you like. If you like steaks, eat steaks. Just make sure it's something that you like to eat. Don't just say, okay, well, I can only have hamburger because whatever. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah. And if you can tolerate plants still, spices, keep spices in, because that's another thing. I couldn't do spices even before carnivore. Like probably about 10 years before carnivore happened to me, that I lost tolerance for all spices. It was just, especially garlic. I thought that stuff was so gross. I was eating salad with salt on it, you know. So, but if you can, handle that, if you can handle spices and herbal teas and coffee and stuff like that, leave that in for as long as possible. And also, there's something to be said about, like, I guess they call it hormesis. If you could keep in a little bit of, like, poison or the hair of the dog that bit you, your body's going to remember how to deal with it. Because people like me that are intolerant of a lot of stuff, I've noticed that I am intolerant of more things now because I eliminated stuff. So it's a little bit harder for me. I start feeling like I'm like somebody in a bubble. So, if you can, keep in at least a little bit of things like your coffee, as long as it doesn't hurt you, I think that that's probably a good thing. Also, it's a human thing. It's like a psychological thing, because once you feel like you can't have things, then you're gonna want them more. So it's kind of like, yeah, don't deprive yourself of everything, especially not in the beginning. And then once you know that you're stable, and if you decide you want to do meat, salt, and water or whatever, then just rip the band-aid off and do it. You know, um, that would be my advice, because I didn't have the luxury of starting like that, but that's probably how I would do it if I was doing it by choice. Especially if I was, some power athlete or something, and I was just trying to, like, up my game, and I was already metabolically healthy, and I just wanted an advantage, then I probably would say, okay, leave some stuff in that I really, really like that's not hurting me, and do the rest carnivore, because, yeah, I think variety is a good thing. Because I've said before in some of my videos even that I read books about people like the Maasai and things like that, and I read this book that was written by a Maasai, and he talks about how they at least put a little bit of, like, tree bark or some type of herb in this soup that they make, and so they're completely carnivore most of the time, but they put a little bit of spice basically in their food. So I don't see, there's anything wrong with that. So don't think that you have to be totally, like, strict, to be a
Mm,
carnivore, you know. It's I don't
yeah.
think it works that way. You know? We're human
Nice.
beings, so
Yeah. Um, so Sarah, you mentioned videos. How can we find you on YouTube?
my channel is just called Sarah Tree, and that's it. And I don't do Facebook. I've never been a Facebook girl or any of that. I don't have any other social media. I probably should, but I just, you know, um I do a lot of other stuff, so I don't, do a whole bunch of screen time usually. So
Mm,
YouTube, it's hard enough for me to keep up with. So, but you can find me on YouTube, and most of my videos are about doing van life, because I did that for quite a long time too, and so I have a lot of that stuff on there, and how to be a carnivore in a van. So if you guys are traveling or out on the road or whatever, you might want to check out some of my older videos about how I kept my meat and stuff in my van. But yeah, so
nice.
yeah, I'm Sarah Tree on there. But I'm starting to talk more about carnivore stuff, because I live with Ron now, and I don't do van life full time anymore. And a lot of people keep asking me, like, they'll look at some of my old videos and ask me questions. And one of my subscribers actually, came to you and asked if I could be if it'd be all right if he shared my information with you, because he thought I would be interesting on your channel. So I
Yeah,
do get
yeah.
people that ask me about this stuff. So I thought, okay, maybe I should start talking about it more, because people might need it. So,
I'll link to your channel in the show notes. And Sarah, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. Thank you for your time today.
well, thank you. I really appreciate you. And I've been really enjoying your channel.